Today, the Great Migration Recursion. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, or that is post covering finance and property news. Well, the 2023 Intergenerational Report projected that Australia's population will swell by around 14 million people, that's up 50% or so, over the next 40 years to 40.5 million people, which is equivalent to adding a combined Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide to Australia's current population. Such extreme population growth, driven by permanently a high net overseas migration, is going to require the construction of around 5.5 million homes, that's accounting for demolitions, by the way, alongside masses of expensive infrastructure. So good luck with all of that. Of course, that is the question of water, power, and many other things too. Health service, for example. The number one solution to Australia's housing and infrastructure shortage is to moderate net overseas migration to a level that is below the nation's ability to supply new homes, infrastructure and business investments, while also safeguarding the natural environment, including water supplies. Otherwise, shortages will worsen and productivity growth and living standards will collapse even further. And yet, the Albanese government has lifted net overseas migration to an estimated record high of around 500,000, driven by surging temporary migration, which is, by the way, mostly foreign students. Labor also lifted the permanent migration and humanitarian intakes to record highs too. This population explosion has driven rental vacancy rates to record lows, driven rents into the stratosphere, and are forcing Australians to shared housing or homelessness. Only those with a bank of mum and dad have any hope of ever owning a property. And 2/3 will never do that if this continues. The situation will only get worse, given that actual housing construction is collapsing at the same time as the nation's population is exploding, with around an estimated 170,000 net new builds last year. Not enough to meet current, yet alone future demand. But unfortunately, we're not alone in this stupidity. The same forces are playing out in Canada, which has just experienced its largest population growth in history in number terms, driven almost entirely by the largest intake of migrants on record. In fact, Canada's population surged by 1.15 million people, up 2.9% over the last financial year, and driven by swelling temporary migration. The Trudeau Canadian government also committed to welcoming 485,000 new permanent residents in 2024, 500,000 in 2025, and 500,000 in 2026. The impacts are similar to Australia, with Canada experiencing gaping housing shortages, soaring rents, and rising homelessness. Canada is gripped by a surge in homelessness, which has seen tens of thousands of people priced out of rental and real estate markets and left to live on the streets of the wealthy nation, reported MSN last month. Indeed, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation estimates that Canada needs to build 3.5 million more homes by 2030 than it would normally construct to restore affordability in the face of swelling population demand. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's election manifesto was that safe, adequate, and affordable housing is essential to build strong families, strong communities, and a strong economy. We have to plan to make housing more affordable for those who need it most: seniors, persons with disabilities, lower income families, and Canadians working hard to join the middle class, he said. However, just like Anthony Albanese, Trudeau has engineered the worst housing shortage in history by ramping population, immigration demands to unprecedented highs. Which takes us nicely to Brickworks CEO Lindsay Partridge, who's called for changes to migration settings to make it easier to import builders in order to alleviate housing shortages. There is no use bringing in anybody if they're not a building tradie, You're wasting your time because where are they going to live? Partridge told The Australian. That has been my argument with governments. They need to be focusing on having immigrants that have building trades like we've done in the past so we can build the homes for everybody. I understand why the governments let the immigration levels catch up, and part of that was the students returning. And there has been enormous labour shortages, but we need trades. We need skilled people. We don't need tertiary qualified people. We need people who are fitters and turners, electricians. These are the sorts of people to build homes. So, in essence, we need to import more people who can build homes to accommodate more people. You what? True, Australia's immigration program is far too heavily weighted towards tertiary qualified people as well as foreign students. But we can also not escape the fact that Australia's net overall migration is simply far too high and has been that way for nearly 20 years. It's not a new problem. Australia didn't build enough homes in the 15 years of big Australia immigration leading up to the pandemic. And there is simply no way that we will build enough homes with current extreme net overseas migration levels, as well as high interest rates, elevated materials costs, widespread builder insolvencies, and the like. The whole notion of bringing in migrants to build homes for migrants is also circular. It's the tail wagging the dog economics. It's nonsensical to import more migrants to fix a housing shortage caused by too many migrants in the first place. And arguably, the biggest accomplishment of the Albanese Labor government has been delivering the worst rental and homelessness crisis in living memory. Migration is the heart of the problem, and the last thing to do is simply to boost migration, to bring more builders in, to build more houses for migrants who are coming in the country. It's nonsensical. It's a recursive nightmare. When will reality dawn, I wonder? Well, not in the short term. And why is that? Because, of course, Treasury and the government want the top line to grow. GDP will grow with more people, even if GDP per capita continues to fall and the standards of living continue to drop. It's a nightmare created deliberately from policy over the last 20 years or so. So it's not just Albanese's fault, but he's taken it to an extreme level. The bottom line is this: you have to get migration down to levels that we can sustainably cope with. And then there is a chance that we can build enough properties to catch up. But at the moment, nobody wants to take that step. Everybody's thinking top line, grow the economy, chase the GDP. We need more migration. No, we don't. Migration needs to be cut. And it needs to be cut now. It's simply a matter of economics. Now, if you're buying your home in Sydney's contentious market, you don't need to stand alone. This is the time you need to have Edwin Almeida from Ribbon Property Consultants standing alongside you. Buying a property is both challenging and adversarial. The vendor has a professional on their side. Emotions run high, price discovery and price transparency are hard to find, and then there's the wasted time and financial investments that you make. Edwin understands your needs, so why not engage a licensed professional to stand alongside you? With RPC, you know you have experience, knowledge, and master negotiators looking after your best interests. So shoot Ribbon an email at info@ribbonproperty.com.au, and if you use the promo code DFAWTW/Martin, you can get a 10% discount offer. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.